Okay, I'm standing here looking towards the east. If it wasn't so bright and sunny, you would actually be able to see the top of the Grand Teton Peak over on the Wyoming side of the state line. We're probably 80 to 100 miles away from Wyoming, but you can still see the peak when it's there. But at any point, here we are looking eastward up a land of hay. A land of hay means just what it says. It's a land of hay. You've got some bumps there. You might be able to see if I can zoom in a little bit. Those bumps are actually called dikes, spelled D-I-K-E-S. And then there's one over here as well. And the reason why you have that in your field is because we don't sprinkler irrigate like some farmers do. We do what is called flood irrigating. And I'll show you a picture later up by a ditch where water comes out and it spreads over, and you have the dikes there so the water gets shot down in a straight line down, and it soaks up, the hay soaks up all of the water, and it gets really irrigated, and the crops will grow. You can go maybe 3 weeks or so before you'd have to water it again when you flood irrigate like that. But that's what a land looks like. Alright, the ditches are empty now, but again in a few weeks when the water gets turned in and we have to start irrigating the crops, this will all be filled with water. Oh, there's my brother's dog, PJ, right there, zooming around, going and exploring around the farm. But when the ditches fill up with water, again, you build a plastic dam with a big, large pole, and it dams up the water, and then you take those metal tubes that I showed you in an earlier clip. You create a vacuum with them over the side of the bank. You can see here how we have dug out kind of a hollow spot right there for the tubes to go down, because the tubes have to be lower than the area where they're sucking water or it won't create the vacuum. Then the water will spread out. There's one of the dikes right there, and there's the other one over there. The water will spread out and run all the way down. This is our longest land of hay on the entire farm. In the distance over there, you can see the big buttes. I'll talk to you about them in just a moment. This ditch does go along here. We have those rocks put in here at the crossing to try to prevent erosion at the crossing. But we use this ditch to water on both sides. This field that will be planted, and then this one that's already planted over there. And then a neighbor of ours, the guy who lives down there in the red house, I don't know if you can see it, it's down there in the distance, he uses this ditch as well. And, we have to communicate with each other, figure out who's using the water when, and you trade it off and you share it. Alright, I traveled a little bit further up the ditch. And as you can see, this ditch is just not far above the slough that I've been filming. The slough's down through those trees a little bit. In a month or so, when things really start to grow and get green, this area will all fill in. And there were times at night when I would come down and have to water the crops at night and change the water. It got a little spooky. You're down here in the lower fields and you hear all kinds of noises. You can hear animals rustling around, and it is a little spooky there. I'll admit there were times I hopped on the four-wheeler and tried to drive out of here as fast as I could. What you have right here is what is called a head gate. A head gate helps regulate the flow of water. This one had to be rebuilt back in 1985. If you can look here, I've got my name right there. When this was poured, we put that in, and then you can see my brother's name, Mike, right there. And then again, 1985, when we put this new head gate in. But if we don't want the water, or we're not watering our crops, you can put that large slide in right there. Whoops, if I can move that branch out of the way. You put that slide in, and it cuts off the water from going down there. And then this is what we call the waste gate. Extra water, if it's not being used, goes down there, and it goes into the slough, or to the canal, and goes on down further for other farmers to use. And here's the main ditch as it comes in. It's really deep right here because there's a lot of water that comes in here. I walked down the waste gate a little bit further so you can see how the water would come down through here, and it will flow out over into the slough. That's looking over also into the sheep pasture, but this is now on the north side. When I filmed the first time, it was from the south and then the west sides. I walked down the waste gate a little bit further so you can see how the water would come down through here and it will flow out over into the slough. That's looking over also into the sheep pasture, but this is now on the north side. When I filmed the first time, it was from the south and then the west sides. Okay, here's another huge ditch. This is called the Byington Ditch. It was named after a guy a long time ago with the last name Byington. I don't even know who it was. But it does come down through here, and then some of the water can be diverted, and it goes over to the head gate I was just showing you. Here is another head gate right here, and again you can put boards in. Those boards that you see right there, they've all been measured to fit into the slots right there and right there, and you can regulate the flow of water. There are many other farmers, as you go down this ditch, as the water gets diverted down, that will use it, and that you just have to regulate. You have to share with each other. You do have to purchase what are called water rights, and the more water rights that you do own, and you do have to pay a fee to use them, you do get to use the water more often. As you can see on this ditch right here, it's loaded with a lot of dead grass. Before the water comes in, that will have to all be burned out and cleaned out, and it helps the water flow better. I was helping do some of that yesterday. We burned out some of the ditches on our own fields.